It's 3:00 in the morning. You're lying in bed half asleep when suddenly your brain decides it's the perfect time to replay a conversation from years ago. You remember something you said. Something slightly awkward. Not terrible. Not offensive. Just off. And now your mind starts dissecting it. Every word. Every pause. Every facial expression the other person made. Did they think you were weird? Did you sound stupid? Did they walk away thinking something about you that you didn't intend? Here's the strange part. Most of the time, the other person barely remembers the conversation at all. But your brain keeps replaying it anyway. And this pattern isn't just random overthinking. There's actually a deeper psychological reason your mind does this. Because when you replay conversations, you're not really analyzing what happened. You're trying to rewrite yourself. Think about the conversations that tend to come back at night. They're rarely moments where something truly terrible happened. Instead, they're moments where you felt slightly misaligned with who you wanted to be. Maybe you laughed at the wrong moment. Maybe you stumbled over your words when you were trying to sound confident. Maybe you said something too eager, too blunt, or slightly awkward. Small things, but your brain treats them like they're evidence of something bigger. Psychologists have noticed that people ruminate most when there's a gap between two versions of themselves. Who they believe they are, and who they feel they should be. When that gap appears, the mind tries to close it. So it replays the conversation, over and over. But here's the problem. The mind isn't actually reviewing the past. It's rehearsing an alternate version of you. The version that had the perfect response, the perfect timing, the perfect tone, the version that walked away feeling confident instead of uncertain. And because that version never existed in the actual moment, the brain keeps returning to the scene trying to correct it. But there's another twist to this. Every time you replay a memory, you're not remembering the original moment. You're remembering the last time you thought about it. Human memory doesn't function like a video recording. It functions more like a story that gets edited every time it's recalled. Details change. Emotions get amplified. Certain moments become exaggerated while others disappear entirely. So the conversation you're replaying at 3:00 in the morning may not even resemble the real event anymore. It's a version shaped by your insecurities, your worries, and your attempts to understand what happened. In other words, the more you replay it, the less accurate it becomes. Now some people will say they replay conversations because they want to improve. They want to learn from what happened. And that instinct isn't wrong. But there's a difference between reflection and rumination. Reflection has an ending. You review the moment, extract a lesson, and move forward. Rumination doesn't end. It loops. You replay the conversation. You find something to criticize. You replay it again. And each loop adds another layer of self-judgment. Over time, the brain begins to treat those memories like evidence. Evidence that you're awkward. Evidence that you're not good enough. Evidence that you somehow failed socially. But that conclusion usually comes from a distorted sample. One moment becomes a story about who you are as a person. And that's where the real damage happens. Because the brain starts to believe that connection requires perfection. That every conversation must be smooth. Every response must be clever. Every impression must be flawless. But real conversations don't work that way. They're messy. They're imperfect. They include pauses, awkward timing, and things people wish they'd phrased differently. And most people are far too busy thinking about themselves to analyze someone else's small misstep for years. The mind just struggles to accept unfinished moments. It wants closure. It wants to believe that if it studies the memory long enough, it will finally understand it. But most conversations don't have a perfect explanation. They were simply human moments. People talking. People reacting. People doing the best they could with the awareness they had at that time. And the person you were in that conversation didn't have the advantage of hindsight. They didn't know what you know now. They simply showed up as they were. Which is exactly how everyone else in that conversation was showing up too. Sometimes the healthiest thing the mind can do is stop pressing rewind. Not because the moment didn't matter, but because one awkward conversation was never meant to define you. And the version of you who existed in that moment was already enough.